to the 2021 Pro Farmer Crop Tour.
All right, It's time for what everyone's been waiting for, time.
The results, and for that, we'll hand the stage over to Chip and Brian.
All right, guys, take us to it.
You bet. Thank you so much. We're going to find out if this Ohio corn crop is everything that we thought it would be, and if the South Dakota corn crop suffered as much as we thought it might. 3, 2, 1, Brian.
185.06 bushels per acre out of Ohio, up 10.4% from what we found last year. Chip, what's your South Dakota number on corn?
151.45. That is down 15.5% from a year ago. We'll get into some of the numbers here a little bit further. Real quickly, South Dakota pod counts, 996.86, down 20.3% from a year ago, 20.3%. Beej?
Yeah, our pod counts in Ohio, 1195.37. That was up 3.4% from last year.
So, guys, I want to bring out a couple of things here. USDA on August 1. We don't compare numbers to numbers. What we compare is what's the percentage change, right? Because that's the best way to compare USDA's, how they are viewing last year's crop compared to this year's crop, and how the crop tour found this year's crop compared to last year's crop. So Ohio on August 1 from USDA was up 12.9%. Brian and his crew today found a crop that was up 10.4%. South Dakota, USDA on August 1, corn down 17.9%. We're down 15.5%. So what Brian's numbers tell me, and fix me if I'm wrong here, Beej, but maybe, just maybe, USDA pushed a touch too hard to the upside. That doesn't count the rain that they got today. We've got to keep that in mind and make that part of the consideration. We're down 15.5%, which isn't quite as much as USDA was down, which suggests that maybe they pushed it a little bit too hard when they took it all the way down to 133 bushels per acre. The reason for the big difference in the 151.45 in USDA at 133 is because of the question that was asked earlier, Tyne. We pulled the majority of our samples from the best of the best in South Dakota today. So, but we're still down 15.5%. And I'm telling you, guys, we don't get a rain, it's going to be down more than that.
Yeah, it's got to get all the way to finish, doesn't it? I mean, we've got to get this crop all the way there. Hey, why don't we pull up the corn numbers again from Ohio? We've had a hard time getting those put up on the screen here. I just want to give folks a chance to go ahead and look at them here for a minute. Walk us through this chart, Brian, a little bit before we just run through it. Give us a little bit of a snapshot here of what you're seeing as significant.
Well, you look at the first one there, and it's ear counts. 100 on ear counts in Ohio is phenomenal, and up 5.1% from last year and 5.5% from the 3-year average. So the ears are out there. Do we have the grain length? Well, 6.99, almost 7 inches on average. That was up 5.1% from last year and 6% from the 3-year average. So we got ears, and they're longer. You're going to build a bigger yield, and that's what the numbers show there. Up 10.4% from a year ago, like we mentioned, but up 10.7% from the 3-year average. So, any way you want to look at it, it's a bigger crop. It's just a matter of, can we stretch it and get it to the point where USDA put it at, that record 193 bushels per acre, which, just to put in context, that's the same number that USDA used for the state of Iowa this year.
Wow.
Wow, and when you look at some of these soybeans, seeing that rain, how much potential do you think is there from some of the pod counts that we saw today?
Yeah, I think, soybeans are always hard in August, but, what we do is we count the pods and is the factory there? Well, the pods in a 3 foot by 3 foot square, year to year, it's up 3.4%. But keep in mind, last year was a very heavily potted crop here. When you look at the 3-year average, it's up 13.2%. So we're looking at, and I made the reference earlier on the corn crop, that it wasn't necessarily an Ohio corn crop that we were sampling. It looked more like an Indiana corn crop. And you could probably say the same for soybeans as well. It's this state doesn't always produce these types of crops, and their potential to be record this year.
Yeah, Chip, what do you think is the biggest risk right now for South Dakota, other than the fact that they need rain, and if they do not get rain, we could see this crop continue to move backward? What else poses a major risk for farmers in South Dakota right now?
Heat. If the heat would stick around to go along without any rain, that it is all about weather at this point. There's no question about it. I mean, I feel like we measured yield today in South Dakota, not so much yield potential. And the reason that I'm saying that is because of the maturity of the crop. We don't get a chance to say that very often in South Dakota, okay? So, but if we break it down and take a look at the chart for or the table, excuse me, for South Dakota, if we could, the ear counts are going to be 88.68, and you look at it compared to a year ago, we're off less than 1%. The grain length, we're off 14%. There it is. That's a big part of the reason. And then the kernel rows around, off 3.2% from a year ago. My route, which again, northern, western, more stressed area, and it dealt with a lot of that heat early in that crop's development, and when the number of kernel rows around the ear was being determined. I didn't come back with a 15 average on the number of kernel rows around from my route. I'm surprised that everybody else on the routes up in South Dakota had enough kernel rows to get us back within a half a point of 16 again, which is where we normally end up. I should have never doubted it, because that's where we normally end up.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Chip, we're still getting in a few questions here. Brian, coming in from Twitter here. Tyne, what's the latest one here?
Yeah, how big of a factor, Chip, do you think South Dakota is going to end up being when it's all said and done and this yield really averages out nationally?
If Ohio doesn't make it all the way to that 193 that USDA put it in there, we might lose those bushels out of South Dakota. That would be the offset. I think that's what we're looking at right now. South Dakota is for the region. South Dakota corn crop is unbelievably important. When we take a look at it from a national point of view, its importance and its impact on that national average yield lessens. But with the amount of corn that is out here right now, coming down, I think it was Highway 14 in northeast Nebraska today, I saw 627 for corn at the elevator. I'm not sure if that was for corn coming in or going out. It's probably for corn going out. But 627, that's how tight the supplies are up here right now. And we're not doing anything to build a cushion in South Dakota or the Western Corn Belt right now. That's where it's really going to show up.
Yeah, and it's a different story in the East. We've been talking about that, Brian. So when you think about Ohio, and now the numbers and the results that we have in from Ohio tonight, how big of a factor is Ohio going to be in the grand scheme of things?
Well, we can pick up extra bushels out here. There's no doubt about that. And so not only Ohio, but I think what we'll find is the case in Indiana, and to some extent in Illinois as well. I mean, USDA put record yields on all three of those states. So are there enough extra bushels out here in the East to offset what are lost in the West? And I think that ultimately, that's what comes into play. Chip made a very good point. This is a cash market thing. This is a basis thing.
Yep.
This is bushels having to be moved around because they were lost in the western belt, and we produce more of them over here in the eastern belt.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that we saw in this last USDA report is that they pulled back a little bit on the national average. But to hit these high national averages, you've got to be able to have kind of the lower tier states move up, and while the upper tier states stay high as well, right? I mean, we've got to be able to, the lows have to be higher. And so the question now is, as we look out west, we look at, you know, the dryness that we know is in Minnesota, we look at South Dakota, some of the stress that we've seen in Nebraska and parts of Iowa. Can we get there? Can we pull enough bushels here, guys, do you think, to even hit what USDA is calling for right now?
If I'll jump in on this, had Quint Pottinger from Affinity Farms in Kentucky on the Farmer Forum last Wednesday, and we talked quite a bit about that Kentucky, Tennessee, the Southeast Corn Belt. And he's pretty optimistic about the corn crop that is down there. It's not without its glitches. It's got warts on it. There are problems. But for the most part, they're anticipating a darn good crop. Now, that might be where we offset some of the lost bushels from South Dakota and North Dakota that get us back to that 14.75 billion bushel corn crop that USDA estimated as of August 1. That's where it might come from.
Okay, Brian, as you set out tomorrow, make your way across Indiana into Illinois, what are your expectations, or what are you really wanting to see and wanting to answer tomorrow on Pro Farmer Crop Tour?
Well, much the same thing as today, Tyne. Is the record yield potential there in the state of Indiana? We sampled from the eastern portion of the state today. We'll finish up in the western portion tomorrow. But is that record yield potential here? Can we find it? Can we continue to find the ear counts, the grain length to drive that yield factor? And that's the big question. Based on what USDA told us, we sure as heck should see that. The question is, will we find that, and will when we pull the husk back and count those ears and measure the grain length, will that be enough? And that's the big question.
Yeah, Chip, same for you. As you make your way across Nebraska, irrigated versus non-irrigated, what are you wanting to answer tomorrow?
Well, the first thing that is in my head after listening to Brian there is the East is a beast. That's what that's what I'm hearing.
There's your headline.
So the wild card,
Get him a T-shirt.
So the wild card is out here in the West. Now, as we were making our way through Northeast Nebraska today, I don't know if every pivot was on, but most of them were. They're putting water on corn. They're putting water on beans, which tells me tomorrow, when we get into the southeast part of the state where there isn't quite as much irrigation, I wonder if we might start to run into some lower yields that are going to offset some of the yields and observations that we made in northeast Nebraska today. It's not unusual for the trend that we find in northeast Nebraska to reverse when we get to southeast Nebraska. So keep that in mind as we make that trip. But our first 2 hours on the road tomorrow morning are going to be in a lot of irrigated corn, and we will find out what the yield potential is on that irrigated corn as we make our way over to Nebraska City. Then it's dryland's turn. Let's see how it's doing.
The East is a beast, and the West, well, it's parched. That's the bottom line from Crop Tour today.
That's right.
Thank you so much, Brian Grady. Thank you so much, Chip Flory, for
Thanks,
those
guys.
results. Now, this is just night one of the Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Tomorrow, the Scouts, as we just mentioned, in the East, they travel from Indiana to Illinois. In the West, they will really focus on Nebraska tomorrow.
And this is just 1 week of activities. Now wait until you see what we have planned for next week. Farm Journal Field Days is back. Like Crop Tour this year, you can choose either in-person or virtual events. For in-person, you can visit Whiskey Acres in DeKalb, Illinois, Silent Shade Planting in Belzoni, Mississippi, or from Farmland in Colby, Kansas. Now each costs $49 per person. or you can register to take part in the free virtual interactive event where you can hear from farmers across the country and industry experts from wherever you may be. Now that's Monday through Friday next week. To sign up, head over to agweb.com, click on the Farm Journal Field Days up on the trending bar.
And if you're thirsty, you're going to want to hit up that Illinois location.
That's right.
Mark your calendar, though, for this as well. The Farm On Benefit Concert is back this year, and our headliner is country music star Easton Corbin. This year, the concert benefits National FFA, an organization near and dear to our hearts, Clinton. It will actually air September 20th at 7 o'clock Central, and there are two ways that you can actually see it: by registering for free at farmjournalfielddays.com, or you can also actually watch it this year on RFD TV at the same time. Either way, it's a great celebration and our way to say thanks for all the work farmers and ranchers do every day. Also a great time to help the National FFA Foundation and the future of agriculture.
And a reminder, we'll be back tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central to bring you the latest results from the tour.
That's right. So join us again right here tomorrow for Crop Tour Live. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
The 2021 Pro Farmer Crop Tour is presented by Pioneer. For cutting-edge agronomic advice for your farm, count on your local Pioneer team for year-round crop management insights. Pioneer, an American seed brand since 1926. By Pivot Bio Proven 40, predictable, productive, weatherproof. Turn to a better nitrogen with Pivot Bio Proven 40. Learn more at pivotbio.com. And by John Deere, helping you gain ground for the days ahead. The international sponsor for Crop Tour is the U.S. Soybean Export Council. Crop Tour 2021 is also supported by RCIS, by Precision Planting, by Bex, by Ag Leader, by Farm Credit Services of America, by Kinsey, and by AGI.